I was placed next to the trash bin at our family dinner, and my mom said it was symbolic. Yeah, that was the word she used. Symbolic. I sat there blinking, trying to process what she'd just said. The smell of reheated casserole and Lysol clashed in the air. My fingers instinctively tightened around the edge of the table. I could feel the cheap wood pressing into my palm, grounding me, because everything inside me suddenly felt like it was floating. She smiled across the table. One of those tight, smug little smiles she's perfected over the years. "You throw out what's broken," she added casually, like she was commenting on the weather. Then my dad chuckled. That awful low-pitched kind of laugh that says more than words ever could. She's been broken for years. I don't remember blinking or breathing. I just remember the way my stomach dropped like I was falling through the floor and couldn't grab onto anything. I glanced around the table. No one said anything. Not my brother, Cyrus, who was already busy checking something on his smartwatch. Not Lana, his wife, who was too busy taking aesthetic photos of the roasted carrots. Grandpa Ernie kept chewing slowly, eyes fixed on his plate like it might offer an escape. And there was my daughter, Lyric, next to me. 8 years old, curly hair tied in 2 mismatched puffs, holding a plastic cup with both hands. She looked up at me with those big, wide eyes of hers, confused, hurt. I couldn't even look at her for more than a second. Not like that. Not with her seeing me like trash. I tried to laugh it off. That hollow, brittle laugh we all use when we're trying not to break in front of people who want us broken. "Well, guess I'm the lucky one with the breeze from the trash bin," I said, nudging my chair slightly. No one laughed, not even politely. Valerie, my mom, just turned her attention to Grandpa, asking if he wanted more gravy. Like I hadn't just been publicly discarded. My skin felt hot, like every cell in my body was blushing in humiliation. I could feel a bead of sweat sliding down my back, even though the house was freezing. Typical. Mom always cranked the AC for dinners, said it kept people alert. I guess that was her way of controlling things. Keep the room cold so no one got too comfortable, so no one forgot who was in charge. I looked at the food in front of me, mashed potatoes, green beans, and a slice of dry turkey breast. Everything felt gray, tasteless. I stabbed at a bean, barely registering the movement of my own hand. In my head, the thoughts started swirling. Why did I come here? Did I really think this time would be different? That they'd see me? Hear me? I'd convinced myself this dinner was a step toward healing. After the divorce, I'd pulled away from the family. Too much judgment, too many whispers. But I missed Grandpa. I missed Sunday dinners and laughter that didn't feel forced. I thought, maybe things could be normal again. Maybe they missed me too. But no. They missed the version of me who kept her mouth shut. The one who apologized even when she was right. The one who didn't make them uncomfortable by existing in her own damn truth. And here I was, seated next to the trash can. Symbolic. My jaw clenched. I felt Lyric's hand find mine under the table. Small, soft, but firm. And in that moment, something shifted. Because Lyric wasn't just watching. She was about to speak. And when she did, nothing in that house would ever be the same again. It's strange, isn't it? How you can walk into a house filled with people you've known your whole life and still feel like a stranger. That's exactly how I felt the moment Lyric and I stepped through my parents' front door that evening. The place smelled exactly the same. Some strange mix of pine-scented cleaner, cigarette smoke that clung to the walls from decades ago, and Valerie's homemade garlic bread. There was music playing faintly in the background. Sinatra, probably. My dad insists it makes dinner feel classy. I remember thinking how nothing in this house had changed, except me. I hadn't been back here for almost a year, not since Nate and I split. It was an ugly divorce, the kind people whisper about behind cupped hands. And my family? They didn't whisper. They judged. Openly. Loudly. And when I didn't take it quietly, they pushed me out without ever saying the words. But I came back for Grandpa Ernie. It was his 80th birthday, and Lyric had made him this ridiculous card with glitter and smiley faces that took her 2 hours. She was so proud of it. How could I say no? I kept telling myself this dinner could be different. Maybe enough time had passed. Maybe hearts had softened. Or maybe I was just lonely enough to believe in things I knew better than to hope for. When we walked in, Valerie was in the kitchen, barking instructions like a military general. Cyrus was already 2 glasses into his favorite Cabernet cracking jokes with Lana. She gave me one of those sugar-dipped smiles, tight, strained like it hurt her cheeks. "Wow, Alara, you look brave," she said. Brave? Right. That's influencer code for, "I can't believe you left the house looking like that." I forced a smile. "Thanks, you look filtered." Cyrus laughed, which annoyed her enough to make my little petty win feel worth it. Dad was in the living room pretending to care about the football game on TV. When I walked in, he nodded at me but didn't get up. No hug, no "good to see you." Just that nod, like I was someone he'd once done business with and barely remembered. Grandpa Ernie, though, he beamed when he saw me. "There's my girl," he said, rising slower than I remembered. His hands were shaky, but his voice still had that warmth I used to live for. "And my favorite great-grandbaby. Come here, Lyric." She ran into his arms like she always did. I didn't feel the tension in the room yet, but I did. Like walking into a room full of thin glass that might crack if I breathed too loudly. They'd already set the table, the long wooden one that had hosted every holiday dinner since I was 10. And that's when I saw it. My seat, the one by the trash bin, a folding chair, slightly lower than the rest, no place card, no cushion. I paused. Valerie glanced over. "Oh, I figured you'd want to sit close to the kitchen, you know, in case Lyric needed something." Right, because in her world, a woman without a husband must always have her hands full. I nodded and said nothing. I didn't want to start a war, not yet. I helped Lyric into her seat, then sat down in mine, already feeling like I'd made a mistake coming, and I hadn't even taken a bite yet, but it wasn't until Valerie made that comment, "It's symbolic," that I realized they hadn't just set the table, they'd set the stage, and I was the performance. Only this time, I wasn't playing the role they wrote for me. I kept telling myself it was just a chair, just a folding chair next to a trash bin, near the kitchen, not a declaration, not a threat, but my body knew better. My shoulders curled in slightly like I was bracing for something. My hands kept twitching in my lap. I wasn't even cold, but I rubbed my arms like I could erase the discomfort clinging to my skin. Dinner started like it always did, with Valerie controlling the conversation like a conductor, guiding the rest of us through a symphony of fake smiles and thinly veiled insults. She asked Cyrus about his latest investment property like he'd just cured cancer. Lana bragged about hitting 50,000 followers for her wellness blog. Every time I spoke, it was like I dropped a pebble into a black hole. No one responded. No one acknowledged. And then came the question, "So, Alara," Valerie said, cutting her roast chicken with almost surgical precision, "are you still at that call center job?" Still. That word burned. Like everything I did was temporary. Like my life was just a waiting room until someone else rescued me. "Yeah," I said, keeping my voice calm. "Still there, it's steady, pays the bills." Lana jumped in. "Oh, you must be exhausted taking calls from angry people all day." I'd cry. "She's been crying for years," Dad muttered, not even looking up from his plate. Cyrus snorted. Grandpa frowned. I felt the laugh before I heard it, that tight, acidic sound that burst from my throat before I could swallow it. Glad to see the family's still great at turning dinner into an intervention. Valerie didn't even blink. "We're just concerned. You've changed. You used to have such promise." That word, promise. It hit me like a slap, like my entire worth was a potential I never cashed in on, like I was a failed investment in their family portfolio. Lyric looked up from her plate. Her fork paused in midair. She could sense it. The shift. The moment things turned from awkward to ugly. I tried to steer it back. I shouldn't have, but I did. "Well, some people's idea of success looks different," I said, picking up my water glass. My hands were trembling. "Mine looks like raising a good kid, making it through the week, therapy." Silence. Then Valerie smiled, that awful rehearsed smile. "That's what I mean," she said sweetly. "You used to be full of ambition. Now you talk like a woman who's given up." I stared at her. Words formed in my head but refused to come out. I saw myself from the outside, sitting in that ugly folding chair next to the trash, surrounded by people who were supposed to love me. supposed to protect me. And then came the moment that cracked it wide open. "I put Alara there on purpose," Valerie said, pointing casually toward my chair like it was just another piece of furniture. "It's symbolic, really. You throw out what's broken." Cyrus laughed, wine glass raised. "That's poetic." Then Dad added, "She's been broken for years." And that was it. The world narrowed into sound and heat and shame. I didn't cry, not in front of them, but my breath caught in my throat. My vision blurred, not from tears, but from pure disbelief. They really meant it. And then I felt it. Lyric shifting beside me, her little legs scraping the chair as she slowly stood up. I turned toward her, confused. She stood on her chair, wobbly but firm, her chin raised, her eyes blazing. I knew that look. It was the same one I used to see in the mirror years ago, before I forgot who I was trying to protect. She opened her mouth, and in 5 words, she burned it all down. At first, I thought she was just standing to grab something, maybe a napkin, maybe to whisper a question. She was only 8. She'd never done anything like this before. But there she was, Lyric, standing barefoot on her chair, hands clenched into tiny fists, her plate pushed slightly forward like she needed room to anchor herself. The entire table froze. Even Valerie looked up from her roast chicken, fork halfway to her mouth. My heart dropped into my stomach. "Lyric?" I whispered, reaching for her hand. "Honey, sit down." But she didn't. Her voice was small but clear. Her lips trembled slightly, but her eyes were steady, locked on my father. "If she's trash," she said, "then why is this photo in your wallet?" You could hear the AC hum, the clink of a fork falling against a plate, the scrape of a chair leg shifting slightly across the hardwood floor. I looked at her, stunned. I had no idea what she meant. Dad blinked. "What?" "This one," Lyric said, holding up her tiny palm, mimicking the shape of a photo. "The picture of her. You showed it to me once. Said it was your favorite." His face turned the kind of red that comes from being caught. Not in a lie exactly, but in the truth you never thought would matter. He opened his mouth, closed it again. Then slowly, without a word, reached for his wallet. He pulled it out, fumbling slightly. His fingers moved slower than usual, like he didn't want to find what she said was there. But he did, tucked into the transparent sleeve behind his license. A photo. Me. I hadn't seen it in years. It was taken the day Lyric was born. I looked exhausted. My hair was messy and I had no makeup on, but I was holding her in the hospital bed, smiling like I'd just discovered light for the first time. He stared at it. Everyone did. Valerie's expression darkened. She didn't like being knocked off her throne. "That doesn't prove anything," she muttered, reaching for her wine. But something in the room had shifted. The silence wasn't awkward anymore. It was loud. It was crackling with all the things no one could take back. And my daughter had just torn a hole through their little narrative with one pure, pointed sentence. I felt it in my chest. Not pride exactly. Something deeper, something quieter, like recognition. Like I'd just seen a piece of myself return through her. I stood up, my knees stiff from sitting so rigid. "Thank you, Lyric," I said softly, placing a hand on her back. "You can sit now." She nodded and slowly lowered herself down, never taking her eyes off Valerie. I didn't yell. I didn't throw my plate across the room like I imagined doing so many times. I just looked around at every face at that table, all of them so eager to define me, to label me, to place me. And for the first time in my life, I didn't feel the need to explain anything. "I think we're done here," I said, not loud, just enough to make them listen. Grandpa Ernie gave me the smallest nod, the kind that said, "Finally." I helped Lyric down from her chair and took her hand. I didn't grab my coat. I didn't say goodbye. I just walked out, barefoot and steady, carrying more strength than I'd arrived with, because this wasn't about a seat at the table anymore. It was about choosing not to sit at tables where love was conditional. We stepped outside into the night air, and it hit me like a wave. Cool, still, honest. No artificial AC chill, no manufactured smiles or shallow praise, just the quiet hum of cicadas and the faint scent of damp grass and hydrangeas. The kind of peace I hadn't felt in months, maybe years. I hadn't realized how tightly I'd been holding my breath until I let it go. One deep, shaky exhale. My grip on Lyric's hand loosened, but she held tighter. "You okay, Mama?" she asked. I crouched down beside her on the porch, knees pressed against the splintered wood, eyes level with hers. Her little face was serious, almost worried, but underneath it I saw something else. Certainty. I brushed her curls back from her forehead. "I should be asking you that." She shrugged. "They were mean." So I said something. Just like that. Like it was the simplest thing in the world. Like defending me didn't take courage. Didn't mean walking directly into a moment no child should ever have to witness. But that's the thing about kids. They're honest. They don't yet know how to coat truth in comfort or dress cruelty in politeness. They just say what they see. And Lyric saw me. I sat down fully on the porch and pulled her into my lap. She laid her head on my shoulder like she used to when she was smaller, when the world felt safer. And in that moment, I felt it. Not rage, not shame. Power. A kind of power that doesn't yell or demand. The kind that settles deep in your bones and says, you walked through the fire, and you're still here. I'd spent so long trying to earn my family's acceptance. Bending, shrinking, performing. And yet all it took to unravel their version of me was 5 words from an 8-year-old with a backbone they didn't expect. That night, after we got home, I tucked Lyric into bed. She fell asleep instantly, curled around her stuffed unicorn like nothing had happened. But I couldn't sleep. I kept thinking about that photo. I couldn't remember the last time I'd even seen it. Maybe years ago, stuffed in some forgotten drawer. I didn't even know my dad had kept it. I used to think he was proud of me. Before the marriage, the baby, the career that didn't impress them. Before I started living in ways they didn't understand. Why keep a photo of someone you ridicule? That question wouldn't let me go. The next morning, a delivery showed up at my apartment. A small package with Grandpa Ernie's name scribbled across the label in his signature shaky handwriting. Inside was a wooden picture frame, hand-carved. He used to do that as a hobby when I was a kid. And inside it, that photo, the same one from Dad's wallet. Behind it, folded in half, was a note in Grandpa's shaky pen. Even broken things can hold the most value. Some people don't know how to see it, but I do. Keep building yourself. Love, E. I sat there on the floor of my tiny kitchen, tears slipping silently down my cheeks. Not because I was sad, because someone had seen me, really seen me and didn't flinch. Not my mother, not my father, not my brother, my child, and my grandfather. I placed the frame on the windowsill. It catches the light every morning now. A reminder. I'm not broken. I was buried. And now, I'm unearthing. Sometimes healing doesn't come with fireworks. It comes quietly, like the way sunlight filters through a cracked curtain in the morning. Software unexpected, steady. That's how the days felt after that dinner. There was no grand confrontation, no apology, no dramatic scene where someone begged for forgiveness. My phone stayed quiet. My family said nothing. And for the first time, I was okay with that. Because I wasn't waiting for them anymore. I used to think I needed closure. That if I just said the right thing, proved myself in the right way, earned enough success or stability, they'd finally let me back in. But what I realized was, there was no door to be let back into when the house was never safe to begin with. What I needed wasn't their acceptance. It was my own. That picture frame from Grandpa stayed on the windowsill, right above my sink. I'd catch a glimpse of it when I was washing dishes or packing Lyric's lunch, and every time it reminded me of who I used to be and who I was becoming. I kept thinking about the version of me in that photo, tired, raw, but lit up with a kind of joy I hadn't seen in myself for years. That girl didn't care what anyone thought of her. She was just in the moment, holding her daughter, feeling like she'd survived something. And she had. I started doing little things to reconnect with her. Not big, dramatic gestures, just simple, quiet steps. I bought myself a real chair for the kitchen table. I stopped shrinking myself when people asked what I did for work. I started saying no without explaining why. And with every one of those small choices, I felt pieces of myself clicking back into place. Lyric asked me once, a few weeks after the dinner, "Why didn't you say something back to them, Mommy? Like something mean?" I paused before answering. She deserved the truth, but also the lesson. Because I didn't want to match their cruelty, I said. Sometimes walking away is louder than yelling. She nodded like she understood, but then she added, "Well, I'm glad I said something." I smiled. Me too. She doesn't know it yet, but what she did at that table, it gave me permission to stop pretending, to stop asking for a seat in a room I never belonged in, to build my own damn table with seats for people who love without condition, like her, like Grandpa. Not everyone gets that moment, that line in the sand, that person who stands up for you before you remember how to stand up for yourself. But if you've ever been made to feel small, like you're the problem, the disappointment, the broken one, I want you to hear this. You are not trash. You are not disposable. You are not the version of yourself that others are most comfortable with. You are allowed to take up space, to speak, to change, to walk away. And if no one has ever stood up for you, then let this story be your beginning. Because maybe you were never broken. Maybe you were just buried under other people's definitions of who you're supposed to be. And now you're allowed to dig yourself out. If this story resonated with you, if you've ever felt like the outsider at your own family table, I want you to know you're not alone. And maybe, just maybe, this is your sign to stop sitting where you don't feel seen. If you found even a piece of yourself in this story, I'd love for you to share it. Maybe someone else out there needs to hear it too. Don't forget to give this video a like if it meant something to you. Drop a comment and tell me your story. I read every single one. And hit that subscribe button so you never miss these real, raw moments we share together. Thank you for being here, for feeling this with me. Until next time, protect your peace and always choose the seat where you feel powerful.